Here we are at the cable easel once again on Channel 6, Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Pat Windrow speaking. Tonight I'm going to be doing just drawings. Maybe I'll tint a few with some color. I'll answer some phone calls if you have any to make to me with questions. And I'll try to make a few announcements of what's going on in and around Brookhaven town in the way of the arts, if anything. The business of doing requests is sort of complicated because I get such a variety of requests. And so I've tried to combine it all together this evening with various amounts of requests that I've gotten. But as you know, I work only from life most of the time. If I do a landscape, of course, I work from sketches. But I've brought in a whole array of things. I brought in a couple of dolls. I brought in our good friend Charlie Brown, and a number of other pieces. For instance, a rather handsome porcelain bird. Well, what is this called? It's a thing. My mother would have called it a dust collector, actually. And I have brought in a nice horse, and here we have a good old friend that I've brought in because many times children ask me about drawing from life that they don't have anything to draw. Well, the reason I brought these things in is because they all have toys. And it may not have occurred to some of the children to draw their toys. Yes, did somebody call me? Oh, okay. I thought maybe I heard my name. So I brought some toys, and I brought some objects that I own. For instance, this iron pigeon, which I have in my garden. It's a wonderful study of a bird that usually is in motion all the time. And if you want to learn how to draw birds, certainly find one that doesn't move very much. This is a rather handsome piece, and you must admit that it'll sit still long enough for you to work on. Therefore, the whole story that I have to tell is always to work from life. So I've started a little bit working on this very handsome piece of bird sculpture, and I think that for this I'm going to put my glasses back on. And I think that maybe just to watch the technique that I use with this is an ordinary magic marker, and this is newsprint. So nothing in the way of expensive materials is on hand here. This is all very available to one and all. And I'm looking directly at my subject matter, and I'm going to simply sketch. If you have any questions, call me, and maybe I can answer them, answer your questions. This is the opportunity to do it. So, working from this, I see it's very sketchy, but that's all you need to do in order to learn how to draw. Just find out the proportion. Now, the point of reference that I have is that right here at about this part of the chest is where this little bird comes from what I'm looking at. Therefore, this is known as a point of reference. If you're going to be, a lot of times people are very confused about the size of things. And I find that many times in school this kind of a piece of information is not forthcoming. So I'm giving it to you. Points of reference. if this beak is somewhere in part of the here, related to the chest of the bird, that'll give you the proper proportion. I could start this over, except that I want you to, yeah, possibly, well, no, I'll leave it just as it is because we have so many other things to draw at this time. You can see that my lines are sketchy. There are many of them because when you draw, what you're doing is you're either preparing for a painting or you're preparing for a watercolor, and the drawing can be sketchy because usually it's not in magic marker. It is usually in something erasable, such as charcoal or chalk. Here, I'm using it for the visibility. I'm using a magic marker. Now, I'm not inventing anything that I see. What I've got going here is exactly what I see in front of me. And these are the masses. So, let me, just while we're in this close, let me go on and do another very quick sketch. See, I've got perfectly ordinary sort of off-white paper. I'm going to move this subject a little bit here and bring the pigeon forth, as long as we're on the bird. And we'll just do this little sort of a bird arrangement here. Now, I'll put my doll away for a moment. Let me select the position of the, there we are. Now, looking at it directly from here, this is, I don't know if you can see it at the same angle, but it's probably about the same angle from the camera. I'm going to lay it out this way. I'm going to make it much larger than it is so that you can, for the visibility, so that you can see it. As you can see, it is sweeping lines, not little tiny ones like this, but sweeping lines that you must try to train yourself to do. Now, this is too fat down here, so I'm going to have to bring it in this way. And my point of reference is this wing right here, this one right here, as to where does the foot come. I think I'm doing this specifically for Chris Leffler, whom I always am telling work from life. And the more I repeat it, the sooner he'll remember it for his own education in this business of drawing. Especially, so I'm not, now this is not directly directed to him, but it's directed to anybody who wants to go into animation. You work from life in animation, and the sketching is essential to work from life. And of course, the Disney people work from life of living animals that move all the time. However, using static subject matter such as this can help a great deal to learn how things are, the anatomy of things, and to also to learn to observe proportion. Now, the foot is hidden behind this wing, such as you see here. I would not be able to invent that or to make that up. That's why, as I've said many times, it is easier to work from life than to invent it. Your information is all there. Phone call. Okay. Let's see what we can do. Yes, good evening. Can I help you? And what's your name?
Hello, this is Vincent Moore.
Oh, hi.
I'd like you to draw a horse.
Well, I have a horse. Do you want to see my horse? Hang on. Let me get my horse. I brought this horse up.
Okay.
Isn't that a nice horse?
Yeah.
Well, it's a big one, as you can see. And I brought that up because I've had so many requests to draw horses that I brought this one up to work from life, okay?
Okay.
So keep watching. I'll do that next, okay?
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that's a request that I can fulfill immediately, which is very nice. So we've got this iron pigeon here. It is essential that observation become an absolute second nature to the people who want to learn how to draw and to paint. If you don't see, if you want to be a representational painter, of course, if you want to be an abstract expressionist, that's fine. That means that you only try to recall what you remember, what your memory tells you. But if you are learning to be, or if you want to have real training as a realist, you must train yourself to be observant. Now, such as there are rows of feathers in this particular piece of sculpture, I am sure that because it's representational, that these rows are accurate, and they are set very much like fish scales, probably because birds are in fact descended from fishes. Fishes are descended from birds, one or the other. Some wonderful, maybe paleontologist can tell me who came first, the birds or the fishes. In any case, their feathers are set very much like scales. And so here we have this pattern here. This is free. Now, if I wanted to be a little bit more explicit about these objects, then I could introduce some shading to give you some three-dimensional quality. I happen to have some watercolors here, so I'll just give you a little bit of shading to show you what I'm talking about. This is all quite clear. I need a bigger brush. Hang on, don't go anywhere. I need a more juicy brush. Now the darkness is underneath. And as you see, you don't have to spend a great deal of time with the studying of the third dimension, or the mass, because you don't need too much. It's just a question of seeing it. Now I see a shadow being cast over this wing coming from the head. It immediately gives you a feeling of depth. It's a little bit dark, of course, and all of these feathers have got shadows underneath them. This one is quite dark under here, and very black underneath here, because this is all underneath the whole thing. Let me see, okay, and this is dark. These are quick lessons to be learned. Gets dark here, purely as a training exercise. These are not intended to speak of a finished artwork. This is purely training. I'm trying, as opposed to other art instructional programs or art programs, instead of just entertaining with the business of standing here and painting, I want to be able to give some information. All right. That's about all you would need as a study. Let me put the shadow in there, and you'll see how all of a sudden this becomes much deeper. So the shadow has a nice, strange pattern that does funny things underneath here, meets the tail, and then swings around in the back there, and you'll see how all of a sudden this piece is anchored to the paper. Okay, phone call. Yeah, let me get this shadow in here before it eludes me. Alrighty. Yes. There. Okay. Let's have the call. Yes, good evening. Can I help you?
Hi, my name is Matt Jens.
I beg your pardon?
Matt Jens.
Oh, hi.
I wanted to know what kind of professions can you get into involving, drawing, like with cartooning?
Oh, profession. You want to know a whole list of professions that you could get into if you...
Just a few off the top of your head from cartooning, like.
Well, of course, there's the animated film business.
Yeah.
Then there is comic strips.
Yeah.
For either daily newspapers or magazines, comic magazines. There is advertising. Cartoons are used a great deal in advertising. Billboard advertising. It's just an enormously, the field is wide open.
What about like architecture and stuff like that?
Architecture?
Yeah, is that...
Well, architecture does not involve cartooning.
Well, not cartooning. Well, drawing the art. Drawing art.
Well, architectural drawings, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, yes, of course. Architecture requires, without any question, a tremendous amount of skill in drawing. Architecture has a funny thing about it. It needs to have the architect able to draw something which doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
The architect designs a building, and then he must be able to draw it before it's even standing there. So he has to understand how you transfer a blueprint to a rendering. So architecture is an entirely different field. Then, of course, you have portrait painting or portrait drawing, which means you have to draw the human face and the human figure. And then drawing is everywhere. It's everywhere you turn, there's a drawing. So it would be up to somebody who is looking for a career to find out what it is that interests them the most.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for calling.
Goodbye.
Okay, so we are now, let's do the horse. Let's see if we can get the horse. And I think I'll turn my pad lengthwise and just get a part of him. I'm not going to do the whole thing, let's just get a part of him. So, a horse is a wonderful thing. Very hard to draw, I think. Some people fall into the drawing of a horse with great ease, not me. I find it very difficult. And that's why I never attempt to draw a horse from memory. I must have some subject matter. I have sat on the fence of stables many times trying to figure out what it is that is so hard to draw about a horse. And it's simply, I think, a question of proportion. Maybe we get a little, as soon as, I'll wait for some closer work here because the drawing is now really small. Let me see, I think that I should be higher up with this. Of course, I am assuming that the man that made the model, or the original piece for this before it was struck out in plastic, which is what that horse is, was knowledgeable about the anatomy of a horse. I assume that it was a professional who understood the proportions, and that he has been true to the true, because it's a very handsome horse, so I'm sure that the proportions are probably right. My knowledge about drawing horses is so limited that when I see paintings of various horses, the horses all look the same to me. That probably is heresy to people who are horse people. That they probably say no, horses all are different. They all have a different personality. To my eye, they all look very much the same. I've admitted something which is unfortunate because I was not brought up around horses. But I really find them beautiful to draw, and I, do them quite seldom. But when I do them, I realize what an enormous amount of training. Rosa Bonheur was one of the great horse painters. Okay, horse. I mean, phone call. Okay, good. Let's see what we can get. Yes. Good evening.
Hello, this is Vincent again.
Oh, hi, Vincent.
Would I be able to pick this up again? Like, pick this up? Where would I pick it up?
Pick what up, honey?
The picture.
Oh, which one?
The horse.
Oh, you want the horse picture?
Yeah, I meant, could I pick it up?
Of course you can. Yes, you asked for it, therefore you can have it. Now, Vincent, you must tell your parents that this television station is up on Industrial Road in Port Jefferson Station.
Okay.
That's right off Route 112.
Okay.
Where do you live?
Do you know where Stony Brook is?
Sure.
I live in the S section.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that your mom or dad knows where Route 112 is, and it's just there at the Penn Furniture Store.
All right.
And it's set back away from 112. So I'll leave this rolled up with your name on it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so Vincent gets the horse. You'll just get ahead. Maybe, I wonder if I should put that saddle in. Let me stick the saddle in and see if it's going to make it. I have a red blanket, a nice red blanket. A friend of mine made these horses for my sons. They dressed them up into horses for knights, and gave them each some. I'll show you the doll that they got for, this is when they were very small, that they got for these horses, and they was quite wonderful to learn about the medieval costuming and everything of these of the knights. So his name was John Philippides, and he was a student of medieval history, and was able to, he apologized for the fact that he put a western saddle on this medieval knight's horse, but that's all he could find. So this is the, see, I'm trying to do it faithfully to the subject matter. Apparently horses must always have blankets on them when they have a saddle. And here are the stirrups. Okay, we'll just do this very sketchy manner. Let's put a little bit of color in that. I think color is always fun, especially most people have a color television set, and so I may as well just take advantage of that and see if I can get this lovely Palomino, a sort of a suggestion of what this horse looks like in color, with a little bit of shading to show you my talk about shading and three-dimensional stuff. Okay, I'm using a very small watercolor set here. Yes, I can't give this to Vincent without having a little bit of color in it. Here's the shadow that comes down from the ear. This is all in shadow here. Now, with a little bit of water, we can turn that horse into a, well, it's sort of yellowish, and Palominos have a nice white spot and white area on their noses and on the muzzle. So you can see a brush full of water is very helpful. Now, this is very pale. This is all very pale. Okay, phone call. Yeah, let's go. Yes, good evening. Can I help you in any way?
Hello, Mr. Windrow. It's Chris.
Yes, Chris. Did you hear me chew you out?
Did I? Well, you didn't really chew me out.
Okay.
One of these days I'm going to zap you with a life painting.
Good.
Bring it up to you.
Good.
I have a request for some time in the future.
Wonderful.
If you could,
yes,
do a big picture of a tiger's head roaring.
Fine.
Okay?
Yeah, I love doing that.
Okay.
I'll do that.
If you could put a nice black background on it.
Ah, are you in the market for swiping it for some purpose?
Oh, I just have a passion for tigers and lions.
Okay, I tell you what, because you're loyal, faithful, and true, and are always calling up with neat conversations and so on, I will do one on the air, and then you can have it.
Great.
Oh, great. And you can stick it up on your wall or spend a fortune on a frame or something.
Yes, I have thousands of them on my wall, as it is now.
Okay, a roaring tiger, you say?
Yes, the face of a roaring tiger.
Face of a roaring tiger, coming up next week, Chris.
Okay.
Okay, how are you? Are you all right?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
And if I'm not wrong, did we see that horse once before on a show a long time ago?
Yes, but you see, I don't have any other horse to work from.
You sat a G.I. Joe doll on it and drew it.
That's
I remember that well.
Well, you've been watching a long time, Chris. That's no fair.
There it is.
Yeah, well, you know, I have to use these things because if I keep talking my shtick is to work from life, I have to bring up these subjects that I have. There, isn't he beautiful?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okie doke.
Well, I'll see you soon, huh?
Sure.
Okay, next week I'll do your horse.
Thank you.
I mean your tiger.
My tiger.
Fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See, I know Chris so well that I can keep working while I talk to him, and I know he won't mind. Well, here we have Vincent's Palomino horse. As you can see, I left the muzzle white. Now let's put that very rakish red blanket on here. You see how color is very seductive. I love black and white drawings, but every once in a while it's lovely to see the introduction of some bright color. And I find that young people respond very quickly to bright color. So I just want to show you how you can get a good effect very quickly with not too much effort. Naturally, if there are any people out there, it doesn't matter if they're adults or children, that have objects in their house, and here's that nice dark brown saddle. Objects in the house. Draw the objects and learn from the drawing of those things. It is very rewarding, it is very informative, and it is revealing to see just how much you see, just how much of an observer you are. So I think that my particular kind of attitude towards drawing is very direct, and it's also, I'm sure, many times going to be very helpful. Okay, so I will sign this and dedicate it to Vincent. Now, as long as so I'll just put it up here. I'll write it up here to Vincent. I'm sure that's right. There we are. Now this can be picked up. What's the date today? March the 20-something? 7. Okay, March 27th, 1984. And if this was on any better quality paper, it could last 100 years. But maybe it'll last long enough for Vincent to grow up and be happy he has it. So, there is the horse for Vincent. Let me see if I can just pull that off. I prepared this pad earlier today. Here we go. All right, we'll put that down there and let it dry. Now, just for a brief moment, let me tell you about some things going on. The museums at Stony Brook, naturally, maybe you don't all know it, but the people who don't know it should know that there is right around the corner in our Brookhaven Township, the most remarkable collection of carriages. Now, you may not care very much about carriages, but you ought to, because they are a phase of history which are eternally fascinating, and here in Stony Brook is the largest collection of horseless carriages, of horse carriages in the country, I think it is. We also have the art museum that houses William Sidney Mount's paintings of the Three Village area. That is the largest collection of Mount paintings in the country. So we have two very unusual gifts for us here in the Three Villages in Brookhaven Town. We also have the University Fine Arts Center, which is mounting a new show tomorrow. I'm going to go and see it. I think it is way out there someplace, and I'm very anxious to see it. So those are two very quickly talked about shows that are coming up. Also, Beverly Raboli is exhibiting at the Gallery North her drawings. Delicate, beautiful, very skillful drawings. This is a drawing show. If you're interested in drawing, go to the Gallery North and see Beverly Raboli's drawings. I think you will be happy that you took that trip. So, all right, let's get on to this. Let's do Dopey for some of the Let's do Dopey for some of the people who are interested in cartooning. I'm working directly from an object which is a cartoon, not a flat thing, but a three-dimensional thing. Important for the skill of learning how to draw. There he is. I'm going to draw him facing me. There we are. Now, the most characteristic thing about these particular creatures is that the heads are oversized. And if you don't make the head oversized, you've lost the flavor of the drawing. See, the movements have to be very free and loose. And if they're not, then you have problems with spontaneity and quick observation. Now you'll notice that this hat is only slightly larger than the ear. That was Dopey's characteristic in the film. I hope that everybody sometime in their lives has seen Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. These characters are all not invented, but all determined of what they were going to look like by the Disney studios. Before that, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was illustrated by many different people, and Disney designed their own impression of what these dwarves were like. Of course, everybody immediately liked them very much, just like they like E.T., which is a design that came out of another Hollywood studio. Steven Spielberg, I believe, was the one that determined what he wanted E.T. to look like, plus the designers. Now the proportion of that is that it's somewhere between the eye and the eyebrow is where this large ear comes. Even after all of these years, I find myself looking for that point of reference. Very important trick to remember. And of course, Dopey had his sleeves always too long. And the way that the designers at Disney's decided to show people that they were hardworking, poor little forest elves was that every one of them had a patch on their clothing. You may take it all for granted, but it's a very important part of the business. This is for that young man who wanted to know what kind of trade you can go into if you learn cartooning. Well, the number of possibilities is almost is not endless, but it's very large. And designers also are very sought after. There's a great deal of need for people to work on and design these characters. So that's a huge feet, which I don't quite understand how these feet go, so I'm going to sort of draw the feet the way I think they ought to be drawn. Well, this should be further down here, and it trails off a little bit more. For the entertainment of it, I'm going to splash some color on here, just to show you how one can handle watercolor very rapidly, without too much concentration on style. Just fill it in. And if later you wanted to put some shading in, that is done with a color which is slightly darker than the one you are using for the overall field of color. In other words, if this is a bright orange, it looks very dark on my monitor. I hope it isn't. I hope it's nice and bright the way I see it here. You would simply use a color which is an orange which is a little darker, which would probably be a type of brown. Maybe I can show you what I'm talking about in a second. Okay, so back here, this arm is in great shadow because it's brilliantly lit. So I'm going to put a shadow on this side of the arm, and that will immediately give you some feeling of some form, some mass. And underneath his belly casts a shadow. And there's also a shadow coming over this collar because his head is sticking out and causing a shadow to fall over his shoulder. There. He has a little tan hat, which shouldn't be too dark, so I'm going to keep it very pale. And it also shines on the top, so I'll leave a little white spot for it to shine. It shines only because it's a piece of statuary. Now, when all of these things are drawn for the movie, they're drawn flat. It's only after they've become saleable objects such as this one that you see a third dimension on them. Cartooning is done flat. The backgrounds are not, but the cartoons are. I think I'm going to just leave him alone. Maybe give him a little bit of pink in the cheeks. And give him a little red tongue. There. Maybe a little pink in the ear. And his black shoes. And a belt. There's his belt. big buckle. Should have left it white. Anyway, this is a, well, we've done number 3. There it is. Let's have one last look at it. There's a quick, it couldn't have been more than, I looked at my watch before to see, it's about a 5-minute sketch. Now, that's not fair because I'm a professional. Nobody's expecting anybody out there to do a 5-minute sketch this size or this complete. But maybe 10 or 15 minutes should be all that's required to do that kind of a sketch. All right, let's see what I can come up with here. I have a very simple one for some maybe very young people. I'm going to hold this one in my hand and see if I can get the characteristic of this little handheld doll, which I find much more pleasing than a Cabbage Patch doll. She's very plain, but she's got a nice sort of a, well, she doesn't look unborn like some of those other ones. And I find that she has a nice little personality. So I'm going to use this as my subject matter. And if you want to, I'll hold it right here and you can see as we go along. Oops, get that little braid sticking out. She has a little tie around her neck here. And then we have the hat, which comes out not too far. Proportion is what we're after here. Maybe I can give her some more interesting arms than what she has. Her little arms just sort of stick out. I've been asked to do this kind of thing. This is request night of drawing objects. Little voices call me and say, can you draw so-and-so? So this is the night that I'm doing it. I know I'll get some calls from people saying, you draw me a doll. They will have missed the show. However, this show, unless there's something that preempts it, will be rebroadcast on Saturday over the weekend at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And so if you've missed any of this, don't hesitate to tune in then. Funny little absolutely shapeless feet here with little printed boots on. Oops, where's the other foot? Oh, this one does this one is just the same thing, only on the other side. Somebody designed this. That's an answer to that young man's question about design and how do you earn a living as an artist. Well, you earn a living as an artist in many ways, but one of the important ways is design. All right, so we've got a little creature here. Question of a few minutes of sketching, and she doesn't have any real, well, head. A neck, I mean. Her neck is just sort of goes down into the doll. Something very interesting to observe how this doll was designed. So we have here the introduction of a little bit of color. And all of these little dots up here are bright yellow. It's very small. I sure hope that it can be seen clearly. She has a very nice color on her face. You have to be very careful not to make it too bright because she's a little pale little doll, and it's always very hard to control the color, especially when you've got some nice brilliant colors such as I have here. But I'm only doing this so that you can see the how quickly you can operate this kind of a technique, just to get it done and see the results quickly instead of worrying and saying I got to finish it tomorrow. Just do it all at once. Don't delay doing all these things. Let dinner wait, and just, you know, as many times I have, get your project done. It's very rewarding, and it's also important to see something finished. Sometimes I hear little children say that it took me so long to finish that in school. I think it's a pity when it has to take 3 or 4 weeks to do something. The interest begins to wane, and maybe there's no need for that endless amount of time being spent on a project. Little flowers here and there, a couple of stripes, and her funny black feet. Okay, well, portrait. Let's see, I wonder if she likes her portrait. Here's a portrait of this little doll. It's larger because I want you all to see what it was. It is not a great work of art, but it certainly is an indication that you can do portraits of these toys. A very good exercise in observation. Okay, I'll put this one away now. And I think we should go on to, let's go on to this one. This is Charlie Brown. I don't know how many people are interested in Charlie Brown, but he is worth millions of dollars. Therefore, we're not going to leave him totally ignored. This little creature here has earned literally millions of dollars for Mr. Charles Schultz, who invented and designed this character. This should answer the question, once again, about how you earn a living doing this kind of thing. Charlie Brown is a balloon head. Okay. Ah, yes. Yes, good evening. Can I help you?
Yes, I would like to know when you started your artwork and, you know, what's your background and everything.
Well, my background is, I'm very old, you see, so my background is long. I started drawing when I was 7.
That's long.
Yes, it's a long time. And I don't think I've ever done anything else but draw, except for a period of my life when I was in the theater. But even when I was in the theater and in radio, I drew. I always did. I was in advertising. I've been a painter for, 30 years. So, and I'm self-taught. I never went to school to learn any of this. So it's taken a long time. But it's been the fact that I'm not taught by anybody means that I have a certain originality about my work. And I do it at least 6 days a week, and I paint about 6 or 7 hours a day.
Yeah, because I really admire your work and everything.
Thank you. But it's like it is a profession, and it's something that I do every day and all day. I've been in many, many fields of painting. I was with the Disney Studios. I have worked as a freelance commercial artist in New York City. I've illustrated books. I'm a calligrapher. I'm a portrait painter, a landscape painter, and a teacher. So it's been a long career, and I've done a lot of things. Would you like to know anything else?
Oh, no, just I really admire your work, and I'll be watching the show.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear you say that. That's why I'm doing this. I do this as a public service so that I can maybe reach people who are out there and interested in the arts and in drawing, and to maybe get something out of this that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, because I know a lot of my friends, they watch you and everything.
Good. Wonderful. Where do you live?
Patchogue.
Where?
Patchogue.
Oh, way down there.
Yeah.
Well, not way down there. That's only 20 miles away, but from the North Shore, that's way down there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you have a whole bunch of people around Patchogue that watch this.
Yes.
Wonderful. Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for calling.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, good enough. Fans are nice, and people who are interested in this kind of thing are even better. So we have Charlie Brown here in a little, I think he's a collector's item by this time. He was bought, oh my, my son is now, well, he's 24, and this was bought from him when he was really tiny, when he was 4. So this particular thing is 20 years old, which of course immediately probably has the term of antique. Anything that's 20 years old is an antique. So now, Charlie Brown is nothing but a balloon head, as you can see here. That's his characteristic. If you attempt to give him a chin or give him any other form but that, it's not Charlie Brown anymore. His body is going to begin somewhere in the proportion here, somewhere around the middle of the mouth or the 3/4 of the side of the mouth, and he comes down in a sort of a triangle, and it's a very short triangle. He's just a little dumpy thing. At least he is on this particular sculpture. And actually, when he is in his cartoon form, he is equally as lacking in design as he is in this little figure. By the way, hang on to your old dolls, because, see, that's even too long here. This should be even shorter. Hang on to your old dolls, hang on to anything old, because we live in an age where things become antiques in 20 years. I was brought up in an age that anything antique was 200 years old. Not anymore. Now you can have a car that dates back to 1954, and it's got you can have a historical license plate put on it. Which that really gets me. These feet are way out of proportion, but that's the way they designed it, with 3 little slashes here for the shoelaces. And he goes back this way, okay. And his pants are much too big for him. They always extend much too far out. Okay. Yes. Well, good evening. Good evening. What's your name?
My name's Joe.
Bill?
Joe.
Joel.
And I'd like to know if you could draw me a rabbit.
A rabbit. Yep. Yes. I can probably draw you a rabbit. Maybe out of my memory, I'm not sure. I almost brought up an iron rabbit that I have in my garden, but I can try and draw you a rabbit. If I don't do it tonight, I'll do it some other time, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, as I was saying, we have to get the other very important factor about this character is the sawtooth design on his clothing. Charlie Brown is not Charlie Brown if he doesn't have this design on his clothing. As you can see, I changed my brush. I got some India ink so that when I go over this, oh, wait a minute, so that when I go over this, it won't run. So I changed my brush and I got another one because I used India ink, and now I can go over the whole thing right over the ink, and it won't move. Alrighty, we seem to have 7 minutes to go. Well, we've sort of covered a lot of space. We can go over these drawings once more and take a look at them and see if we got any place. I have a handsome piece which would be good training for somebody who wants to draw ducks. Anyway, here is just a very quick finishing up of this little number. I want to get the other one done. And if you want to make that shoe shine, just leave that spot there. That white spot will make his shoe shine. And I'm using watercolor here. And here's another little spot for the shoe to shine. And the rest of him is flesh tone. And he has no color in his cheeks. He's a sickly looking little thing. He never has color in his cheeks. First of all, there's a black and white cartoon character. Except sometimes you'll find him when he's on the TV. He's in color, of course. I don't know how many people are fond of Charlie Brown. I must say that my sons probably learned how to read through the Charlie Brown books. They spent many, many hours reading all these just huge quantities of these little stories. And we learned a great deal about life from Charlie Brown. Well, there's another one. And here is the duck. Now, this is a very wonderful piece. It's an old one, but it gives you the shape. A lot of people say, draw me a duck. Well, how do you draw a duck if you don't have one in front of you? If you have a decoy in the house, or if you have a lamp with one of these on it, you can use this as a very fine reference for how to draw a duck. I find that these are very handsomely done. The proportions are right. This one, of course, the paint's all worn off, which makes it a real antique. And there's that thing underneath. You know, you string them together so that they float on the water. I hate duck hunting, but that's beside the point. I'm going to draw this duck. I hate to think that those beautiful creatures are just whacked and shot at, and nobody really likes duck very much anyway. I think they're tough birds. So anyway, enough of a lecture about ducks and so on. Let's just draw him, and I'll turn this sideways. Actually, we don't really ever have to eat any of that stuff. We can eat things that grow, you know. And well, maybe you have to control some of the population. I don't know. I dearly love to see the ducks flying over in the fall. Now, here we have a subject matter, and I'm going to just probably have to wind up the show with this particular drawing. Let me use my lead. Here is my lead. I think the lead is more fun. This is a piece of black graphite, which is lead, and it's an enormously helpful sketching tool for me. Let me see if I can get the lovely proportion of that hand-carved decoy. The eye may be a little bit high in this thing. I'm not sure. I'll have to go to the pond over here in Setauket and check that and see if the eyes are set that high. Now you see, you can get a great deal of information from these things. Who would think that the chest on a duck sticks out almost as far as the bill? And they were carved in two pieces. The head was carved separately, and then the body was carved afterwards, and then they were put together. So the separation of the head is right there. And the body comes past this head because the head is set in. And here's the observation that I was talking about before. Be sure that you are very selective about your details. Let me see if I can see that properly. The drawing's getting bigger than I thought. But I can, yeah, then it comes down like so. And it's very simple. But there is, see, when you want to draw a duck and you don't have any idea of how to do it, and if you have this kind of thing working for you, the information is not hard to get. It is easier, of course, than going and sitting by the pond on a freezing, windy day. It's not as much fun, of course, to work inside, but at least you get the information. And then when the time comes for you to go out and say, I'm going to sit by the pond and draw those ducks, you'll have some idea of what they look like. Naturally, they move a great deal. Now, this is a shadow, as you can probably tell. And it's dark under here. See, with this lead, you can work with it sideways and cover a large amount of space. It gets very dark over here and underneath the carved part. Well, we don't have to dwell on this any longer. How much have we got? Anybody? Do we know? A few minutes? 2. Okay, let's just pick up some of these drawings and see what we have. Oh, 1. All right. Well, let me pick up my drawings and see if I can just sort of recapitulate this lesson. This is a sort of a review. I came up with a bunch of reference materials this evening, and here's what we've come up with. The birds. The first ones that I was doing with the birds, a little bit more complicated. I didn't want to take too much time to do that. And then came an iron pigeon to give us some idea of the looks of a bird in proportion. And then we got Vincent's horse. I got to start going fast. The horse, Charlie Brown, and Dopey, and, oh, falling like leaves in the fall, and a little sort of a hand doll. Well, I certainly, I'm glad you tuned in. I am glad the phone calls came through nice and clear and that I was able to help somebody, maybe, or to give them some information that they didn't have before. Tune in on Saturday at 4 o'clock. This will be rebroadcast then, I'm sure, if there's not a fantastic sports event. And I'll see you next Tuesday at 6 o'clock on this Channel 6, Brookhaven Cable TV, Brookhaven Live. Pat Windrow here at the Cable Easel, wishing you good night.